Hi, freshmen. This is your little intro video to get you going on Speak. Speak is a wonderful novel, and that's coming from me. This is not my kind of book. I don't really gravitate towards like teen, sort of angsty books like this. But when I first read this book, I read it in one day because it was so good and I just couldn't put it down. And so I'm hoping that you will really like it as well. So when you get into your document, it looks like this. We have our cover page. And then, this book is divided up in school semesters. So this is like their first semester, their first quarter, their first marking period. And you can see that I have your annotations right here. So we're going to have the same annotations all the way through the book. And it's really critical that you do a really good job of annotating this book because it's worth a lot of points. So I split this up in 5 assignments, and each assignment is worth 25 points. So just annotating the book and reading it is going to get you 125 points in the grade book, which is huge. We haven't had any assignment in English 9 that's 125 points. And it's really easy points because all you're doing is reading the book and writing and annotating things and proving to me that you read it. That's all you have to do. So you can see our annotations right here at the beginning. We're going to box motifs, and I'm going to start reading with you a little bit right now, and I'll clue you in on a couple of the motifs. You're going to highlight in yellow anything that's beautiful or striking language or imagery. And what I've noticed is some students are just highlighting whole pages in yellow. You can't do that. Usually it's just a couple sentences that you're highlighting because you're like, oh man, that sentence is so beautiful. And in this book, there are a lot of really beautiful sentences. Then you're going to be making a bunch of comments. That's the main thing you're going to be doing. So I want you to make comments whenever people are treating Melinda, that's the main character, a certain way. So I want you to make notes about how people treat her. So if they're treating her poorly, I want you to make a note of that. If they're treating her really nice, I want you to make a note of that. I want you to make real world connections. So that might be connections to Pomona High School. That might be connections to things that you're seeing in the news. That might be connections to things that you've experienced out in the world. You're making real world connections in your comments. And then you're going to make reader response notes. And we haven't really talked about that very much, but reader response notes means that you write down your thoughts and feelings as you go through the text. So anytime you have a thought as you're reading, like let's say I'm reading something and something bad happens to Melinda, I'll make a comment and I'll say, oh man, that stinks. I'm so sad that that happened to Melinda. I can't believe that guy did that to her, right? Or whatever it is. That's a reader response note. And so you're going to make a whole bunch of those. I'm really going to crack down hard on these annotations. On the last couple short stories, I was kind of like, yeah, it looks like they're pretty much doing it. You need to make sure that you're doing a really thorough job of annotating on this document and all of our Speak documents so that you get your points because it's a huge amount of points. Now, I'm just going to show you before we start reading, there is, as you go through the text, there are close reading. You can see right here, this is a discussion passage number 4. And you can see there's close reading number 1. So we have activities that we're going to be doing when we discuss. But you can see there's not very many things in the way of boxes throughout the text. There are some boxes at the end, right? So you always will have an after reading box with some sort of activity. This one is list the motifs that you saw throughout Speak. So you'll list some of those. And then we'll have some during discussion. And you won't do those before. You'll do those when you come to class and we discuss the section. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go ahead and start reading the first little bit with you and kind of talk you through my thinking and give you some annotations. And then we'll just go from there. So the very first section, and what I really like about Laurie Halls Anderson is she has really short little chapters. And so as you're reading this, I would maybe even consider looking at how many chapters are in an assignment and just saying, okay, today I'm going to read 2 chapters. Tomorrow I'm going to read 2 chapters, or whatever it is. It might be 3 chapters. It might be 4 chapters. They're really, really short. So I may read like the first 2, maybe even the first 3. We'll just see how it goes. And what I tell you to annotate, you should be annotating because I'm helping you, right? All right, so here's the very beginning of the book. Welcome to Meriwether High. It is my first morning of high school. I have 7 new notebooks, a skirt I hate, and a stomach ache. I thought it was interesting that the very first line of the book kind of rhymes, right? I have a skirt I hate and a stomach ache. So I thought that was interesting. I put a note in the margins of mine that there's that rhyme. The school bus wheezes to my corner. I thought that was an interesting verb. It wheezes to my corner. I thought that was kind of cool. The door opens and I step up. I am the first pickup of the day. The driver pulls away from the curb while I stand in the aisle. Where to sit? I've never been a back seat waste case. If I sit in the middle, a stranger could sit next to me. If I sit in the front, it will make me look like a little kid. But I figure it's the best chance I have to make eye contact with one of my friends if any of them have decided to talk to me yet. So I made a note right there that I said something's going on. We don't really know yet what has happened to Melinda. But I said, that's weird that her friends aren't talking to her. So I wrote a little note like, what's going on? Something's up. The bus picks up students in groups of 4 or 5. As they walk down the aisle, people who were my middle school lab partners or gym buddies glare at me. I close my eyes. This is what I've been dreading. As we leave the last stop, I'm the only person sitting alone. So I made a note about how people are treating her. Like they get on the bus and they glare at Melinda and no one will sit by her. She's all alone. So people are treating her fairly poorly. The driver downshifts to drag us over the hills. The engine clanks, which makes the guys in the back holler something obscene. Someone is wearing too much cologne. I try to open my window, but the little latches won't move. I've experienced that when you're trying to open the window on the bus and they won't open and you're like, oh, I want my window open. So that's a real world connection, right? A guy behind me unwraps his breakfast and shoots the wrapper at the back of my head. It bounces into my lap. A ho-ho. We passed janitors painting over the sign in the front of the high school. The school board has decided that Meriwether High, home of the Trojans, didn't send a strong abstinence message, so they have transformed us into the Blue Devils. Better the devil you know than the Trojan you don't, I guess. School colors will stay purple and gray. The board doesn't want to spring for new uniforms. Older students are allowed to roam until bell, but 9th graders are herded into the auditorium. We fall into clans, jocks, country clubbers, idiot savants, cheerleaders, human waste, Eurotrash, future fascists of America, big hair chicks, the Marthas, suffering artists, thespians, goths, shredders. I am clanless. I wasted the last weeks of August watching bad cartoons. I didn't go to the mall, the lake, or the pool, or answer the phone. I have entered high school with the wrong hair, the wrong clothes, the wrong attitude, and I don't have anyone to sit with. I am outcast. Now, those 2 paragraphs right there, I'll scroll down a little bit. I highlighted I am outcast. It is one of the most important lines in the entire novel, and it's on like page 2 or 3 or whatever it is. Really, really important. She feels all alone and she is outcasted from everyone. I also made a note about all these different groups. I see those groups, right? I've been in high schools for most of my life, both as a student and as a teacher. And I see these cliques that we all, even in adult life, like we group ourselves based off of the people that we like to hang out with. So I put a note about that with a real world connection. Like I see those. And I also liked the repetition of wrong. She has the wrong hair, the wrong clothes, the wrong attitude. So there we go. Let's keep going. There's no point looking for my ex-friends. Our clan, the Plain Janes, has splintered and the pieces are being absorbed by rival factions. Nicole lounges with the jocks, comparing scars from summer league sports. Ivy floats between the suffering artists on one side of the aisle and the thespians on the other. She has enough personality to travel with 2 packs. Jessica has moved to Nevada. No real loss. She was mostly Ivy's friend anyway. The kids behind me laugh so loud I know they're laughing about me. I can't help myself. I turn around. It's Rachel, surrounded by a bunch of kids wearing clothes that most definitely did not come from the East Side Mall. Rachel Bruin, my ex-best friend. She stares at something above my left ear. So I marked at the beginning that the kids are being mean to her again, right? They're laughing about Melinda and she feels it. She's like, I know they're laughing about me. And so she turns around and she sees her ex-best friend, Rachel. So I put a little note about that with how Melinda's being treated. Words climb up my throat. This was the girl who suffered through brownies with me, who taught me how to swim, who understood about my parents, who didn't make fun of my bedroom. If there's anyone in the entire galaxy I'm dying to tell what really happened, it's Rachel. My throat burns. So I highlighted the rest of that paragraph in yellow. And then I marked for motifs the word throat and the word words. Throat and mouth and lips are always going to be a motif in this. And you can see that she wants to talk, but she can't. And if you look so far in the book, she hasn't said any dialogue. It's all just in her head. She's just thinking these things. So she hasn't actually spoken yet, which is interesting since the book is called Speak, right? She's not speaking. So I highlighted the last little bit of that and I put boxes, at least in mine. You're going to highlight them because they're motifs for words and throat. And keep looking for those things. Her eyes meet mine for a second. I hate you, she mouths silently. So I put a note like, whoa, that's really mean of them. Like she mouths, I hate you. I'm going to scroll up a little bit there. She turns her back to me and laughs with her friends. I bite my lip. So I put, I marked that for a motif because lips are a motif. I am going to think about it. I am not going to think about it. It was ugly, but it's over, and I'm not going to think about it. My lip bleeds a little. It tastes like metal. I need to sit down. So I highlighted my lip bleeds a little. It tastes like metal. And then I also marked for a motif of lip. I stand in the center aisle of the auditorium, a wounded zebra in a National Geographic special, looking for anyone to sit next to. A predator approaches, gray jock buzz cut, whistle around his neck, around a neck thicker than his head, probably a social studies teacher hired to coach a blood sport. I really love that image. So I highlighted the whole thing because I've seen teachers like that. I've seen coaches like that where their neck is so big and they're like, the only reason they're teaching is because I get to coach some sort of sport, right? Mr. Neck, sit. Now, you'll notice she names him. She doesn't know this guy's name, but she gives him a name. And names in this book are also a motif. So she gives him a name. It's not the right name, but it's a name. And we haven't actually learned Melinda's name yet. You just know that it's Melinda because I told you that. Like, we don't know the main character's name yet because they haven't told us. So names are also really important. So I would mark Mr. Neck because that's a name and that's one of our motifs. I grab a seat. Another wounded zebra turns and smiles at me. She's packing at least $5,000 worth of orthodontia, but has great shoes. I'm Heather from Ohio, she says. I'm new here. Are you? I don't have time to answer. The lights dim and the indoctrination begins. The first 10 lies they tell you in high school. Number 1, we are here to help. Number 2, you will have enough time to get to your class before the bell rings. Number 3, the dress code will be enforced. I marked that one and I made a connection to the real world because I feel like at Pomona we have struggles with enforcing the dress code. No smoking is allowed on school grounds. Number 4. Number 5, our football team will win the championship this year. Number 6, we expect more of you here. Number 7, guidance counselors are always available to listen. Number 8, your schedule was created with your needs in mind. Number 9, your locker combination is private. Number 10, these will be the years you look back on fondly. So I did a lot of connecting that to the real world because I felt a lot of truth in a lot of those statements. Like even when I was in high school, I felt like these things are not true, right? They're total lies, right? And number 10 especially, high school was fine, but it's not the years that I look back on. I'm like, yeah, that was really awesome. It was just, it was okay. It was high school. And there's so much more in life than just high school. My first class is biology. I can't find it, and I get my first demerit for wandering the hall. It's 8:50 in the morning, only 699 days and 7 class periods until graduation. She has a super bleak outlook. All right, our teachers are the best. My English teacher has no face. I highlighted that because I think that that's super important. Not a motif. It's similar to this whole like not naming people and not having names, but her English teacher doesn't have a face. She has uncombed, stringy hair that droops on her shoulders. The hair is black from her part to her ears, then neon orange to the frizzy ends. I can't decide if she had pissed off her hairdresser or is morphing into a monarch butterfly. I call her Hair Woman. So there's another name. So I marked that for motif of names, right? Names are super important in this book. Hair Woman wastes 20 minutes taking attendance because she won't look at us. She keeps her head bent over her desk so the hair flops in front of her face. She spends the rest of class writing on the board and speaking to the flag about our required reading. She wants us to write in our class journals every day, but promises not to read them. I write about how weird she is. We have journals in social studies too. The school must have gotten a good price on journals. We are studying American history for the 9th time in 9 years. Another review of map skills, 1 week of Native Americans, Christopher Columbus in time for Columbus Day, the Pilgrims in time of Thanksgiving. Every year they say we're going to get right up to the present, but we always get stuck in the Industrial Revolution. I marked that for a real world connection because I really feel that. I took lots of history classes and I always felt we always were behind. We never were getting up to where we needed to be. We got to World War I in 7th grade. Who knew there had been a war with the whole world? We need more holidays to keep the social studies teachers on track. My social studies teacher is Mr. Neck, the same guy who growled at me to sit down in the auditorium. He remembers me fondly. I got my eyes on you, front row. So once again, I marked Mr. Neck because that's another motif. Nice seeing you again, too. I bet he suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder, Vietnam or Iraq, one of those TV wars. So I will read one more to you, and then I will set you loose to start reading on your own. This is Spotlight. I find my locker after social studies. The lock sticks a little, but I open it. I dive into the stream of 4th period lunch students and swim down the hall to the cafeteria. I highlighted that last sentence. I thought that was a great image, like swimming in the halls. Yeah, the hallways are like rivers in high school. I know enough not to bring lunch on the first day of high school. There's no way of telling what the acceptable fashion will be. Brown bags, humble testament to suburbia, or terminal geek gear. Insulated lunch bags, hip way to save the planet, or a sign of an over-involved mother. Buying is the only solution, and it gives me time to scan the cafeteria for a friendly face or an inconspicuous corner. The hot lunch is turkey with reconstituted dried mashed potatoes and gravy, a damp green vegetable, and a cookie. I'm not sure how to order anything else, so I just slide my tray along and let the lunch drones fill it. This 8-foot senior in front of me somehow gets 3 cheeseburgers, French fries, and 2 ho-hos without saying a word. Some sort of Morse code with his eyes, maybe. Must study this further. I follow the basketball pole into the cafeteria. I see a few friends, people I used to think were my friends, but they look away. Think fast, think fast. That's that new girl, Heather, reading by the window. I could sit across from her, or I could crawl behind a trash can, or maybe I could dump my lunch straight into the trash and keep moving right on out the door. The basketball pole waves to a table of friends. Of course, the basketball team. They all swear at him. A bizarre greeting practice by athletic boys with zits. I thought that was a great image. So I highlighted a bizarre greeting practice by athletic boys with zits. He smiles and throws a ho-ho. I try to scoot around him. Thwap! A lump of potatoes and gravy hits me square in the center of the chest. So I made a note there about how they're treating her. They just threw mashed potatoes at her. All conversation stops as the entire lunchroom gawks, my face burning into their retinas. I will be forever known as that girl who got nailed by potatoes the first day. The basketball pole apologizes and says something else, but 400 people explode into laughter, and I can't read lips. I put a line, a motif. I highlighted for motifs around lips. I ditch my tray and bolt for the door. I motor so fast out of the lunchroom, the track coach would draft me for varsity. if he were around. But no, Mr. Neck has cafeteria duty, and Mr. Neck has no use for girls who can run the 100 in under 10 seconds unless they're willing to do it while holding onto a football. Mr. Neck, we meet again. Me. You see, it's blank. So I actually put a little note there, and one of the motifs in this book is silence. You see that she has a moment to speak, but she doesn't speak, right? Not speaking is one of the motifs. Would he listen to, I need to go home and change? Or did you see what that bozo did? Not a chance. I keep my mouth shut. I highlighted that for motif as well. She keeps her mouth shut. Mr. Neck, where do you think you're going? Me. Once again, silence, nothing. So I put a note. That's a motif. It is easier not to say anything. Shut your trap, button your lip. Can it? All that crap you hear on TV about communication and expressing feelings is a lie. Nobody really wants to hear what you have to say. I highlighted that whole thing. I thought it was really, really good. And there's some motifs there. There's lips, there's communication, there's speaking, there's not speaking. I did a lot of marking in that. Mr. Neck makes a note in his book. I knew you were trouble the first time I saw you. I've taught here for 24 years, and I can tell what's going on in a kid's head just by looking in their eyes. No more warnings. You just earned a demerit for wandering the halls without a pass. All right. So that's where I'm going to leave you. And then you can go ahead and, continue your reading. Like I said earlier in the video, I would break this up and try to read in little chunks. So maybe you read, 3 chapters today. Maybe you read, break it up. Maybe you read 4, maybe 5. Don't leave it till the very last minute, or you're really going to have a hard time finishing your reading assignment. All right. Have fun. Enjoy this book. It's really, really good.